Yeah.
They
So we
make
got
a little announcement.
We got YouTube.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. I will call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Knowles,
Here.
Mr. Rambelang,
Here.
Ms. Greenfield,
Here.
Ms. McCready is absent. Mr. McQueen.
Here.
Mr. Ribeiro,
Here.
Ms. Amara.
Here.
A notice of this meeting was provided to the Bernardsville News and Courier News, filed with the municipal clerk and posted on the municipal bulletin board on January 13th, 2022, and revised January 24th, 2022. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll put this on. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Jack, do you want to do the...
Yes, the first item on the agenda, Mayor, as we've discussed, are the presentations by the two engineering firms, Ferrero Engineering and Van Cleef Engineering. The Ferrero Engineering is going to make the first presentation, and during that presentation, Anthony Sariano, the clerk, will put the Van Cleef people out into the waiting room for the duration of the Ferrero presentation. And then when Van Cleef is making his presentation, Ferrero will be put into the waiting room.
Okay.
And each, as I understand it, each firm will have 15 minutes to make their presentation.
And I think, let's see, it's Angela, Knowles.
I don't see anybody else other than.
They were there. Where'd they go?
Yeah.
David Battaglia is here for Van Cleef. I believe Stan and Cindy will be joining us closer to 7:15. We knew we were waiting until 7:15.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay. So I'll put the both of you in the waiting room then. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw Cynthia Norfleet there before. I thought,
Yeah.
and Angela, but I guess they'll come back in when it's time. So I will turn it over to, as you know, we had I think 4 RFPs for engineer, and our 2 top selections we've asked to come and do a presentation. So I will let Paul and Bob Brightly take the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Ferrero. A number of you I have not met before or seen before. I know Bob has. I wanted to start by first thanking you for your time, for allowing us to give you a presentation. And I also wanted to really give this presentation in 3 phases. The first is really a personal introduction, because as I said, some of you may not know who I am, may not know who Bob is that well, because with COVID and with changes in the governing body, things are different than they were. So I'd like to spend a few minutes on that. Then I'd like to follow that with some background on our firm and the things that we do and have done for Berners in general. And then after that, Bob's going to go into some specifics on some Bernardsville projects that we've done over the years. That being said, again, I am Paul Ferrero. I founded Ferrero Engineering back in 1992. So we're coming up on our 30th year in business. Just as a way of personal background, I have a undergraduate degree from the United States Military Academy. My master's degree is from the University of Pittsburgh. My work experience was initially with the Army Corps of Engineers. After I left the service, I worked for a general contractor, then a small engineering firm. And as I said, back in 92, I started my own firm because I felt the things that we were doing, we could do very well. And I wanted to really have a focus group to be able to do that. As I said, I started in the firm in 1992. Bob started working with me in October of 93. So he's been around essentially from the beginning. So we both have been doing this for quite some time. I have been a municipal engineer in one aspect or another since 1990. And right now we currently work in one way or another for almost 20 municipalities across Somerset, Morris, Hunterdon, Passaic, Union, and Mercer counties, and Essex County as well. So we have quite a wide area where we work. That being said, Bob, why don't you give a quick background on update on your background?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, I started in the engineering, my career in 1983 at a relatively large multidiscipline engineering firm, Boswell Engineering. I started as a field engineer on a $6 million sewer project. Later moved into a resident engineering position. After about 2.5 years, I went into the office where I worked on all different types of civil engineering design projects, sanitary sewers primarily, a lot of storm drain projects. I was later moved into their highway department. I worked in the highway department for a while. Then I started writing reports for their underwater bridge inspection department because I guess I wrote well, I guess for an engineer. And I acquired my PE license and they moved me into the municipal engineering division, which is pretty standard practice there. I was handling a couple towns and doing some private development work in 1993 when I started working for Paul. And as Paul mentioned, I've been with Ferrero engineering since then. I've been doing engineering in Bernardsville for the planning board, board of adjustment, and the capital improvement projects for 20 plus years. I handled 2 other towns for Paul. I've been in the one town for over 14 years and then the other for over 9. So pretty consistent work, and that's basically my experience.
Thanks, Bob. I just wanted to roll back because obviously I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. But I'm also a professional planner. I'm a certified floodplain manager, and I am a LEED accredited professional. In addition to being licensed in New Jersey, I'm licensed in 9 other states, including Colorado and everything on the East Coast from Pennsylvania down to Florida. So that's my personal background and what we do. As Bob said, and as I said before, the firm was founded at the end of 1992, and we really started getting into it in 1993 when Bob came on board, and we've been doing a lot of municipal engineering work since then. And what do we do as municipal engineers? I think we do a fairly wide variety of work. You're all familiar with the road work and stormwater work and those design projects that we do because we've done a ton of those for Bernardsville and our other towns. But we've also done quite a bit of park work. If you're familiar with Harry Dunham Park in Berners Township, that's one of our designs. River Road Park, Pluckerman Schoolhouse Park, Burnt Mills Park, River Road Park in Bedminster are all parks that we've done in Bedminster. We've also recently done a turf field for Long Hill Township in North Caldwell. We just completed a recreation master plan to look at all their entire municipal recreation complex and find ways to rehab and revitalize that. We're also doing the Walker's Pond Recreation Project in North Caldwell. As far as other projects we've done plenty of hike and bike paths. Some of you may be familiar with the paths that go through Bedminster Township. If you go down 202, 206, or the ramps off of 287, you'll see the bridges over those ramps, and those were all part of projects that we designed. We've also done the design on the Lawrence Hopewell Trail down in Mercer County. That's another one of the projects that we designed. We also work with our municipalities and do plenty of building-related projects. We've done HVAC projects, we've done generator projects, roof projects, we've done garage projects. Now, some of this work is done in conjunction with other design professionals. We will bring in a specific electrical engineer to design a generator, for example. Somebody who just does electrical engineering knows that better than I do and better than most people. And so we have a cadre of different professionals with different specific expertise that we use for projects along those lines. We've done a couple of municipally sponsored 100% affordable housing projects. We did 2 separate projects down in Princeton, and we also did the Harding Farm project in Harding Township. That was another site plan project that we did. That's a 100% municipally sponsored affordable housing project. We did the libraries in Harding Township and West Milford. We did the site plans for those projects. We've also been involved in a number of redevelopment projects, not only on the review side, but on the design side. In Bogota, we did the redevelopment design for the redo of the old Hess fuel storage site where they had the big oil tanks right on the river down there. We redeveloped that site. We also did a redevelopment site in Pleasantville where we took an entire city block and converted it into a mixed-use development. We've had quite a bit of involvement, me personally, especially with inclusionary zoning and the negotiations that municipalities need to go through with both fair share and the redeveloper, or then the affordable developers themselves. We've done a number of those and still involved in those on almost a weekly basis. Another thing we do that is really important, I believe, is really one of our successes, is the grant applications that we are able to apply for and receive. Just in the last 5 years alone, our towns have received $19 million worth of grants for projects where we've submitted the grant applications. And of that, 1.6 was for Bernardsville itself over that time period. Last year, our towns received $4.5 million worth of grants based on the applications we made to the state. Most of those are primarily NJDOT road local aid projects, but we've done transportation enhancement projects. We've done habitat enhancement projects. We've done community development block grant projects. Most of those have been in Morris County, but we've done them other places as well. So that's really a 20,000-foot overview of what we do as a firm. And Bob, I don't know if you want to take a few minutes to just talk about some of the projects you've worked on in Bernardsville.
Sure, Paul. Yeah. So I think the first project that I was involved with in Bernardsville, and just as a follow-up, most of our projects, the capital improvement projects that go out to bid, I handle the review on before they go out as a check. But in Bernardsville, I specifically handle all of the design myself. And it's going back to 2001. I think the first one was Sunset Drive and Sunnybrook Road, where we just did a drainage project on those 2 streets. And then it was resurfaced. The most recent projects that we finished was Crestview, which was a reconstruction, new curb and drainage. Lindabury and Hull recently done. And there's been a lot of resurfacing work that we've been involved with. And going back to 2001, we've done contract amount of just road improvement projects, $15.3 million. And I think it's important that if you look at the final contract on those projects, it's about 14.3. So consistently, we're coming in at or under budget. And of that 14.3 final contract amount, 4.39 of that was local aid funding. So approximately 30% of the cost of those projects were funded by the NJDOT. And I've worked with the local aid reps for my entire career, really, and we have a good working relationship with them. The borough's been successful. Recently, the borough received $300,000 for Bernards Avenue. We're working on that design right now. Most of these projects are drainage and curb work. I could go through the entire list, but it was included in our proposal. I don't think we've done any park work. We've just got the pickleball court out to bid.
I would like to just, because I know we're kind of heading towards the end of our allotted time, and I want to allow anybody to ask any questions. One thing I would like you to keep in mind as well is that this is about the qualifications of the engineer, and it's also about the value that we can bring to the municipality. And I say that in the most basic terms, in that I think you will find that our fee schedule is compatible or is very comparable to anybody else. I think we price things aggressively. We wouldn't work for as many towns as we did if we didn't have reasonable prices and gave a very satisfactory project to those municipalities. And just as a curiosity, I went back and I looked at something. And the last time Bernardsville went out for a project that we did not design, you went to another engineering consultant to design a project, and you went out. And this is why we were the municipal engineers. The decision was made to go out and get another engineer to do it. And when you did that, the project ended up having soft cost of only design of in excess of 17%. As a comparison, our numbers are between 8 and 10% for the design on a project such as that. So I think that's important that, not only are our hourly rates highly competitive, I think we are incredibly efficient the way we get work done. Bob says he does the design, and he does the design from beginning to end. And because of that, you don't have back and forth with 2 or 3 different junior engineers and draftsmen on the project. We just run, I think, a very highly efficient, very streamlined operation. With that, I'll open up to any questions you might have.
Hop in. Oh, go ahead, Mayor.
Anybody have a question?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, this is
Oh, Gina, you're here.
Councilwoman Gina. Yep, sorry. Yeah, just not on video. I've been here since the beginning. Paul, the project that you just referenced when the 17% cost was there, what project was that for?
That was Sycamore Hill. It was a project that was started in 2011 and took almost at least 5 years or 4 years to get it completed from the time the design started to the time it was complete.
Ironically, that's my street.
That's right, it is.
This was a project that the borough went out of contract for. Do you know why they did that?
I think they were trying to dip their toe in the water and see what else was out there. And I think the numbers speak for themselves. I think there were significant change orders on that project as well. I think it was, I think there were close to $60,000 worth of change orders on the construction. And even more important than that is there were over 10 supplemental items, is what we call them. And those are items that were not in the contract to begin with. And there were things that were not anticipated. I think you will see on our projects, that's simply not the case. Bob does an outstanding job of anticipating things that are out there and knows the town very well and makes sure that if it needs to be covered, it gets covered.
Yeah. And one of the other things that you mentioned is about either consistently being on or under the budgets. What are things that happen that allow for these projects to come under budget?
I think it's efficient design. I think it's some of it is getting the contractors out there with competitive bid numbers, but it's also very close observation on those contracts. A number of years ago, not that many years ago, we were not doing the inspection in the borough. The borough had its own full-time staff that were doing the inspections on some of the projects, and there were some issues with those. After that, the borough got us involved, and generally speaking, the contracts are coming in under budget even better because we have the people out there to make sure the contractor does what he needs to do and doesn't, for example, throw some extra asphalt on the pavement or make a trench wider than he needs to make it. And we just make sure the project is done in accordance with the specifications. It gets done properly. We don't allow them to cut any corners. We make sure they do it right, but we also make sure they don't pad the project.
Bob, this is Chad McQueen. Just a quick question. So if you think of the projects over the last decade, is there a project that you're particularly proud of? Is there one that there are things you would have done differently with?
Very small project. I kind of like the way the steps came out at the municipal building. It's a small project, but some cars were coming down that hill pretty quickly when they entered, and people were walking in the road. So we put a little design together for those steps. I'm. It remains to be seen, but I'm very happy with the pickleball court. The way the plans came out. I mean, Doug and I were probably on the phone 50 times, making sure we have everything covered on that project. These projects, installing curb on a street that doesn't have curb is, you only see the end product, but it's a challenging project because a lot of times you'll find the driveways on one side of the road where they meet the pavement are several inches different than the other side. And we're trying to get a nice smooth line through there. So, those type of projects, I'm very happy with the way Crestview came out, Lindaberry and Hull with those curbs. I like the projects where we've been able to put curb and drainage in, Liberty, Highview, that's just a few that I feel came out well. Mine Mount Road, that first section was kind of a challenge because, the curbs are different elevations. It's hard to see, but, we had that same issue with driveways on the high side, driveways on the low side. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these are, the final project is just, it's resurfacing, so not doing anything real glamorous.
And that's the problem with a lot of what we do. You don't, when it comes out well, it looks like it's a road. And, what it takes to get from what you have to what the end product is can sometimes be pretty challenging. And I think that's something that we do well with Bob's insight as to have done so many miles of roads like this.
Thank you.
I had a question, but Councilman McQueen, did you get I think you asked for one that may have been done differently. Was that answered?
He didn't, but if there was nothing, that's okay.
Yeah. So I'd be interested to hear that as well. But my question, first of all, thank you, Mr. Briley, Mr. Ferrero, for the presentation. I just want you to reconfirm the team that would be dedicated to Bernardsville. I know, Mr. Briley, you'd be the lead. But you mentioned Mr. Ferrero, specialists that come in on specific jobs or others. I'm interested in how you staff. And then separately, we're a smaller community. You deal with, you said 20 other municipalities. How would you go about ensuring that Bernardsville is prioritized?
Okay, I'll start doing that in the backwards order and talk about why is Bernardsville so important. Bernardsville is probably our second longest municipal client. We've been working with the borough for quite some time. It is very important to Bob. It's very important to me. One thing we do is take our towns very, very personally. Bob has really been dedicated to Bernardsville for the last 23 years and doing virtually all of that work. And another thing is when you want to talk to Ferrero Engineering about Bernardsville, there's two people you talk to, and the two of us are the owners of the firm. That's Bob and myself. So if you call Ferrero Engineering, those are the two people you talk to. You talk to the two owners of the building. Between the two of us, we own 100%. So I think that's one thing that shows our commitment to our municipalities. And while we have a lot of different towns, we have 20 people in the office who work on different towns in different ways. So primarily the way it would be done is as it has been done in the past. Bob is the lead engineer. Bob does the drafting. He does the design. He takes it from beginning to end. Occasionally he will have one of the senior designers do some of the more drudge work of putting a base map together, but Bob takes the design and gets it done. He writes the specifications. When it comes to something like a generator project, there's a couple of engineers I use, KSI out of South Jersey and Strunk Albert out of East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. those are the electrical engineers I use. As far as architects, one of the best I've dealt with is a guy named Charlie Schaefer out of Newton. I've done a ton of municipal work with him, including municipal garages, some retrofits on buildings, and have had a very successful time with him. And another thing that KSI and Strunk Albert also do are things like HVAC projects. And I bring them in, and I will often get proposals from both of those firms to see who has the best fit for the specific project.
Good, thank you.
Is there
Yeah.
time for one more question?
Go ahead.
And this is to either you, but probably Bob can speak more to this question, which is, most residents in my tenure at least have brought up certain areas of town that are particularly I don't want to say unsafe, but maybe not ideal for pedestrians to cross. And over the years, we've made a lot of improvements, but there's one intersection which is known as the Five Corners, which is where Claremont and Sini meet by the two churches. So my question is, if you could put or implement anything there, regardless of cost and regardless of whether or not the county allows it, because we know that there's a county road coming through there that limits as far as what we can do. But if you could do anything there, what would it be to improve pedestrians being able to cross there?
I'll take that. This is
I'll
Paul.
answer it, Paul, if I get a chance. But you
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I'll just lead in to say that a lot of what I've been doing lately has been dealing with traffic calming and pedestrian safety. And that can mean things like a road diet. I've worked with Morris County on making some of the county roads narrower to try to reduce speeds there, find ways to better delineate crosswalks, whether it's a speed table at an intersection. Those require careful design. They require consideration with the different entities that might be involved. And they also involve noise impacts. I'm not a big advocate of putting speed tables up and down every road, because the house that it's in front of, there's a lot of noise every time a landscape trailer goes over. So you have to be very careful and mindful when you do implement speed or traffic calming devices like speed tables. But there are ways you can create areas where you jut out the crosswalk area. We're right now in the process of beginning the design on one in Main Street in Chester, where we got a local aid project to improve the walkability by narrowing the road through the center of town and making the crosswalks shorter. So with that, I'll let Bob speak.
Yeah, I heard an accident several years ago where somebody unfortunately may have lost a leg at that intersection. And on my own time, I've done 5 concept plans on that intersection. And I'd be happy to share them with the borough at any time. They're not great. They range from anything from trying to fit in a roundabout. I've moved intersections. I have several concept plans there. Not authorized to do them, so no one has seen them. But when I heard of that accident, it was kind of troubling, and I know that's a tough intersection. But that's kind of the commitment I have for the borough.
Thank you, Bob. I think we've kind of used up your time, so I really appreciate you coming. And just so you know, I think, what we're trying to do here is, really do a deliberative and, discerning process of showing the public and a lot of new council people what an engineer does and how they do it, and which is why we wanted to have these public presentations. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight and help us understand what you've been doing for us, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon. So thank you so much.
And I appreciate your time and giving presentations to governing bodies, something I do all the time. Got a whole series on stormwater if you ever really want to listen to that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we can let in the next group, and you guys can So Anthony, I'll let you do your
Yeah.
thing.
Good evening.
Okay, we're trying to get this straightened out. So,
I think we're good.
good old Zoom. So we have Angela and David.
Hello.
Anyone
And
else?
I do see Cindy and Stan on as well.
Stan and, okay, great. So, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. As we said before, we have, two presentations, so you're our second.
Okay.
I think Cynthia said something about a PowerPoint, so I don't know who is sharing that.
I will share that.
So we just need to give you share screen ability, Anthony. So anytime you want to do that. So
You should have it.
Okay.
Yep, I see it now.
So take it away. You're up. This is Van Cleef, by the way.
Thank you very much. I do not see if Cindy has joined us yet.
She was.
Oh, there you are.
I'm on.
There you are.
she is.
I
Okay.
got bounced off once.
Ed, you can all see the share screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Now, you want to start us off, Cindy?
Sure. Great. It's lovely to be here tonight. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. I'm Cynthia Norfleet, and I'm the COO and managing partner of Van Cleef Engineering. We are very pleased to have the opportunity to talk with you tonight. We'll be talking tonight with Dave Battaglia, Stanley Schreck, Angela Knowles, and myself. And I'll leave it to each of our staff to introduce themselves.
Go ahead, Stan.
All right, Dave, did you go?
No, I figured I'd give me last.
Okay, I'm going in order here. Okay, I'll go then. I'm Stanley Schreck. I'm a principal of Van Cleef. I've been with the firm for roughly 12 years. I've been a municipal engineer most of my career, and that's what I specialize in, and help with various towns. I'm currently a municipal engineer for 6 different municipalities. Locally to your area, I service Raritan Borough, Manville. We do some work for Bridgewater, also do some work for Somerset Airport. Our company is very much full service, as Cindy said, specializing in a full range of municipal services. We're more than just roads. We get deeply involved in our communities. Couple of, you want to go to the next slide, Dave? You kicking these off?
Sure.
Jump in. All right, as Cindy said, we've been in our firm was founded by Neil Van Cleef 50 years ago. In fact, in April, we're celebrating that 50-year anniversary with a little fun event. Currently, about 200 people involved in 10 offices, and Dave Battaglia from our Mount Arlington office will give you his background. Dave, go to the next slide, please. This shows, and you're not going to read it all, but this shows a wide range of services that we do provide. As I say, we're more than just roads. We do get deeply involved in the character of our community. You'll see another slide that demonstrates the length of time we serve with these communities. It becomes generational by the amount of time that we stay. We get involved, we understand our community. We look for what their needs are, try to concentrate on that, understand the character and the people within the town. We've been very successful in grant acquisitions. We've been very successful in redevelopment planning and redevelopment work. We have a fairly good track record with our municipalities with water, wastewater, stormwater compliance, sustainability is on everybody's mind right now. And Angela, our planner, will speak a little bit more with that and her involvement with the Green Team and other sustainable efforts. We understand the communities, we understand the boroughs. With every municipality, it takes a little bit of getting up to speed, for lack of a better term. We take that responsibility onto ourselves. We've never billed or invoiced a client for some of that time, which could be extensive in understanding the municipality, bringing the files up to speed, and working with our predecessors in a professional way to try to get those files in place. But I'll let Angela go next, talk about some of our redevelopment work. And Angela?
Hi, everybody. My name is Angela Knowles. I'm an associate with Van Cleef and the Director of Planning Services. I'm a licensed professional planner for about 12 years now. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, and I'm also a lead AP. As Stan mentioned, I do some work with green teams and Sustainable Jersey. I've been on the Land Use and Transportation Task Force of Sustainable Jersey since before it was called Sustainable Jersey. So for about 15 years. And currently I'm working with a couple towns, Raritan Borough. I work with their green team. We're working on their certification, and working with Tewksbury Township. We just got them certified, the bronze level of certification this past year. So that was exciting. In terms of planning, we also do a variety of planning work. And what feedback I've gotten from towns is that, it's nice to have the planning and the engineering in the same firm. Our plans don't just sit on shelves. They actually get implemented by the engineers that are with our group. So Stan and I have worked together. I've been with Van Cleef for about 5.5 years. And so we've worked in towns together. As Stan mentioned, we're good at getting grants. In Raritan Borough, for example, we secured a $1 million TAP grant through the NJDOT to do a streetscapes improvement around their train station in the downtown. And so from that, we've done visioning workshops around streetscapes, and then secured additional funding to have folks come in and do the surveying work to actually put some of those visions into reality. We recently completed the downtown economic development plan for the borough, and just got word that it's receiving the Somerset County Land Development Award for excellence in planning this year. We've also done work like circulation planning for Raritan, which included some bike and pedestrian safety planning. And again, now we're at the point where we're taking the recommendations from those plans and working with the engineering group to actually prioritize those projects and put them into place in the town. In Manville, we've secured TAP grants as well for improvements to the Lost Valley Nature Park, which, if you're familiar with Manville in that area along the Millstone, where the Millstone and the Raritan converge, gets flooded frequently and very badly. And so we're working with them to turn that area into a more natural park for stormwater management, but also to provide additional amenities and environmental assets for the town. That's, in terms of other towns that I work in Somerset County, I'm currently the appointed planner in the Borough of Raritan and in Manville, and also in Rocky Hill. But we do work across the state. So I'm very familiar with Somerset County and the planning work that happens there. So I guess with that, I'll turn it over to Dave. I think he's going to talk about some of the work that he does. Thank you.
So one of the reasons why we're talking about planning so much is really there's a lot of synergy between planning and engineering. We want to make sure that you understand we have the ability to acquire you grants and then execute on those grants in terms of actual construction projects. In terms of introducing myself, David Battaglia, I have about 27 years of experience. 20 of that as a municipal engineer. I've served all sorts of different communities, large and small, in-house as a public employee and also as a consultant. closest to Bernardsville, I actually was previously the in-house engineer for Bridgewater. And I live in Randolph, so I drove through Bernardsville all the time. Very familiar with your downtown area. As far as the size of the company, obviously we're a larger company, but we have a great deal of experience with all sizes of communities, small to large. Bernardsville being about 12.9 square miles. You can see from this list here, we have many smaller communities, many larger communities. They all get the same quality service. We're very service focused. We try to operate as if, personally, I try to operate as if I am your in-house town engineer. I don't like the residents to really think of us as a consultant. That comes in handy very often. Sometimes residents feel like a consultant isn't giving them the proper service because they don't care about the community or whatever. We don't operate like that. It's even though it's a large company with multiple offices and you have that breadth of experience, you still have the smaller focus from each of the offices. We would be servicing Bernardsville out of Mount Arlington. I am actually currently servicing a project. I see Doug Walker on the call. I'm working with Doug on the quiet zone study for White Neck and Meeker, and so from that too, I'm getting good experience in Bernardsville. You can see that from the years of affiliation in all of these towns, some of these, as Stan said, are some generational communities, 37 years, 31 years. We have a long history in many of these towns. Some of these towns, we actually have recurring history. I've been appointed right now as the Borough of Wharton engineer, and I was previously the Borough of Wharton engineer for a previous employer some years ago. So they've taken me back with a new company. I currently service Wharton, Westfield, and South Orange. Westfield and South Orange are two new accounts. Westfield is probably the most similar to Bernardsville, similar demographic. They also have a nice downtown area. There's also a lot of redevelopment going on. I know I was looking through your Quimby redevelopment project, which the report for that was done by Topology. I'm working with Topology in Westfield on an identical project. We already went over these first two projects, but just in terms of some of my experience, I also have experience acquiring grants, obviously mostly local aid grants, but over time I have worked on a lot of streetscapes, downtown redevelopments. I put Wharton on here because they're a former and current client of mine personally. I did do a streetscape development under a local aid grant with them many years ago, and currently working on a community development block grant with a parking lot project. I also have the Bernardsville project here with Doug that I'm working on. For that project, just a quick status, we're doing a feasibility report, which should be done this week, and we'll get that out the door. And I think that's about it, unless there's any questions. I'd love to answer some questions.
Mayor, do you mind if I ask a question?
Not at all.
So David, I'm assuming that you would be working with us locally. Is that the correct understanding?
Correct.
So you mentioned that you were currently onboarding two new boroughs or municipalities. This would be your third. So I guess it's a two-part question. How would you manage the, bringing on another borough? And then from success metrics, what would you say would be a successful first 6 months with our borough if we brought you on?
Well, first, in terms of onboarding, for me and for us here in the office, it's not a matter of the workload per client. It's a matter of the workload per project. So I have a list of projects that I need to work on. They're all priorities. Every project needs to be done with due diligence. To me, whether it be in Bernardsville or Westfield or wherever, it still needs to be approached with a quality product. We need to get a quality product. Doesn't really matter where it is. So there's plenty of bandwidth to handle those projects. As you heard Stan say, he's running 6 towns. I'm only running 3, so I kind of feel I need a few more. I'm relatively new to the firm. I've only been here just over a year. Previously, I was actually in Bridgewater for several years as their in-house person until the mayoral change. So I'm just starting to gain some clients here at Van Cleef, and that's why you see that there. But in terms of workload,
Dave,
that's fine.
Yeah, Dave, if I may, have also realized that we have the support of all our offices.
Absolutely.
You know, one of our core values is how collaborative our firm is, and we've really grown to see that in the past 2 years. Surprisingly, with COVID, brought us all together, and we work so well as a group. We meet regularly, weekly, to understand workload, share workload, concentrate where workload's needed. We've never had, as far as I know, missed a project deadline, and work to the satisfaction of our clients. Dave should also realize too that we're 24/7 availability. We're always answering questions for our clients and offer instant service. But as far as overwork, we actually welcome that, but we also have the resources to push that work out.
We have the resources in all of our offices to handle the workload. That's never a concern. You know, and actually the virtual environment is very helpful in that the last 2 years with COVID have been probably a little bit of a silver lining when it comes to everybody getting used to working remotely. My office travels with me wherever I am, including, as Stan said, 24/7. I have my laptop at home on the weekend. I'm answering emails if they're important enough to answer on a weekend, and it works out quite well, actually. Client service is fine. In terms of the second part of your question, a successful metric for the first 6 months. A successful metric for me would be completing all of the tasks that the borough wants completed, and also answering all resident questions that generally come in satisfactorily. I'm very resident focused. I spend a lot of time answering resident questions, and do pride myself on having a good rapport with the residents. After all, they're the ones that control everything.
Thank you.
Angela, I just had a question for you. You mentioned the NJ TAP grants. What's involved in those grants? I mean, what are they covering? Specific things, or?
Well, that's actually probably a question more for Stan, but yeah, I think they were pretty involved, those applications.
Yeah, I can give a brief summary. The TAP grant we received for Raritan Borough, that's actually a 2016 TAP grant. It's 2022. We're not into construction yet, but that ties back to the pandemic, and just things got stopped. But that TAP grant envisions connectivity between Raritan's railroad station and the riverfront. Direct contact across the Devious Street Bridge. It's a walking bridge into Duke Farms. Duke Farms, the visitor count to Duke Farms is incredible when you look at the number of people. We think that's a great opportunity to drive Raritan's downtown, and this TAP grant gives us that connectivity with a proper streetscapes, wayfinding signage, and development of our businesses. The Manville TAP grant, that's a 2018 grant, and we're just implementing design now through the design pool. That's almost a bit of a sad story. It's in an area called the Lost Valley. And the Lost Valley was at one time a vibrant community. There's been many buyouts over the last few years. Sadly, the community's left. What remains is the roads, the vestiges of what was a thriving community. So this TAP grant is more environmental. The impervious coverage that was left by those roads will be removed. We'll replant areas. We'll reclaim it back to a properly managed open space. There'll be wildlife, there'll be proper plantings and park opportunities for the residents as well as for Somerset County. It's a co-project with Somerset County lands, and the project's, as I said, the project's just getting into design now. It's probably a 2023 project for implementation.
Can I ask you how much those grants were for?
The grant in 2016, the grant for Raritan Borough was $1 million. We've gone back or we've reapplied to DOT for an additional $400,000. We'll expect we'll get that. Some increase in scope, but mostly increase in cost, and everyone knows what's happened with the economy. The grant for Lost Valley is $800,000, with Somerset County contributing an additional $250,000 to the project, plus a design pool grant, I believe, for $130,000 on top of that. So yeah, and that's a good example too. We have very, very good relationships in all our communities with the next level up in government into the county, DOT, DEP. We know people. We have good and continuing relationships with key staff in those agencies. Counties have been most supportive of the work that we do.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
I was wondering if you could tell us maybe if you took one or two towns as examples as far as grants that were received for the towns last year.
Not sure I understand the question.
Like how much money in grants were you able to receive for, if I could say Westfield, but any town really in 2021?
Okay.
Do you know those
for local aid grants, which is what I generally work on myself, in Westfield, I believe we have a $500,000 grant. I know in South Orange we have over $1 million in 2 roads, and in Wharton we're looking at a $350,000 grant for 1 small road.
Okay.
Angela might be able to speak to some other TAP grants.
Actually, smaller grants, but significant, I think. In Manville, we got a $50,000 grant from Green Acres to do a redesign of a different park in the town, where folks have sort of made man-made paths through the forest along the Royce Brook, and so they wanted to improve it and add some signage and things like that. So we were able to get $50,000 to get that process started for them. And then also in Raritan, we were able to secure a $60,000 grant for through the NJEDA for a redevelopment plan for a project there. So those were two examples in the last year.
Well, Angela, you also completed last year, and just since the beginning of this year, you completed the NJTPA grant, which was close to $300,000.
Right. We got that grant at the end of start of 2019. No, I'm sorry. It was the end of 2019, and it started right when the pandemic started. So all of our public workshops were virtual, and it was actually a big success. Yes, we just wrapped that up. And that was equivalent of it was a technical assistance grant, but it was equivalent of about $300,000 of work. So
as far as the NJDOT local aid, well, every town's going to get some local aid monies. It's how much you get is what the key is, and how quickly you get it. DOT rates the municipalities on how quickly you turn the projects around and how quickly you close them out. In effect, they're rating the engineer that's doing the work. We always try to get the highest ratings. In Raritan last year, we applied for priority 1, priority 2 projects. We actually have both of them in the same year, which really surprised me. We have a technique. We always like to apply for 2 grants in the municipality, priority 1 and priority 2. We're expecting to get 1, but priority 2 sets you up that you know you're going to get that grant next year. And it's a bit of a strategy on how you do this. Sometimes we may take jobs grants and try to stack them for a larger projects. For instance, Manville Borough we're doing this year, we're starting, it's in construction now actually with water utility work, but we're doing Brooks Boulevard phases 1, phases 2, phases 3. We took 3 years of grants, stacked them together for economy of scale, which notably saves roughly 30% of the cost. That cost we were able to do more work and actually fund the engineering component for it also. So Manville's getting a significant project at really no cost at all to them.
So Stan, actually, you're going down the line of questioning that I was going on before.
Sure.
So, you've talked about a couple of things. You talked about timeline adherence. You talked about budget. Do you have any statistics in regard to your firm last year in regards to what percentage of projects were on time versus within budget?
I would venture to say we're on time within budget with all of our projects. I'm speaking for my own. I'm not, although I do have management within the company, I'm not down into the quote unquote the weeds, but I don't know of any examples where we haven't failed or gone back to it. These road projects were very good at predicting what the workload's going to be. And obviously some of them will actually go in higher on our estimates. So we're not going back to the governing body for more work. I have 2 projects now in Raritan Borough that are actually building projects. One is a new police OEM building. Another is a DPW building. We're just starting those. The budgets have changed with the initial cost projections 3 or 4 years ago. Those budgets have changed just because of what's happened with the economy. But we're trying to stay a step ahead of that, so we're not surprised later. But as far as the civil work, we have a very good understanding of what the work's going to be. Our plans are complete enough that we're not getting questions on change orders, and we try to get as many questions asked up front during the bidding process so we're not surprised later on. And usually we know the contractors well enough that you know who you're getting and how to handle that, and we try to stay ahead of it. But we're not going back to council looking for a committee, looking for funding.
We're definitely striving to make sure that the budget that we tell you is what we're going to work within. Generally on my projects, if there's a change order, it has to do with something that the municipality decided to add, like extending, paving a block or doing something like that.
David, we'd never change our mind.
What percentage of your work is in roads?
I didn't hear that.
What percentage of your work is in roads?
Is roads.
Roads.
You mean for the overall company?
Yes.
That fluctuates. I would say 40% is civil of that regard. We have, when I talk about roads, I'll also talk about the utility work that's involved with roads. The other large amount of work we'll have is through escrow work with developers and managing those construction projects. But let me go back to roads for a second too, and the work with the utilities. And I'll hold up Phillipsburg as a very good example. And Phillipsburg's a challenged municipality. If any of you, I'm sure you're familiar with Warren County and Phillipsburg. We're doing $2 million worth of road work this year, between this year and the past year, which is shocking for Phillipsburg. But how are we doing that? We were able to coordinate work with the water company, Aqua New Jersey, and with Elizabethtown Gas. The ordinance is written in such a way that if a utility company comes in, does trench work, or they're doing more work than's going to open the road, they're responsible for paving to the center line of the roadway. So what we've done with both with the water company, with the gas company, we'll take that money and bring it back into escrow. They'll create an escrow account. And the town will go out with the remaining work that has to be done using the county co-op at their discounted rate. And we're able to get a majority of roads done. A good portion of the jobs we're not even paying for because we have utilities on both ends of it. So we try to manage road programs that way to try to get opportunities where we can get funding from other sources, as well as what I said before, that economy of scale. If we can take projects and put them together over a couple of years, the larger the project, the lower the unit cost is going to be. I'm not quite sure if I answered your question. A lot of our work is roadways, but there's more involved than just paving a road. Utility work, stormwater work that we do with roads too. You're familiar with the MS4 requirements for municipal stormwater. And you're also familiar with the ADA requirements that we have to address with all roads with handicap ramps and accessibility.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I think it's also important to emphasize the commitment that the firm has made to technology and updating technology, which helps us to get done everything more efficiently. We have drone services that help us with our road programs. We have updated everyone with a laptop so that they can be accessible, unfortunately, sometimes for them 24/7. And we have invested in software continually to upgrade software, such as Bluebeam, to share our plans with each other. And that helps us to optimize every person in the firm. So that we are committed to working smart and working faster.
Have you ever had or heard of negative change orders in road projects?
Yes. Yeah, sure. The final change order is a final change order. There may be reductions from work that's been done more efficiently, or the budget's changed. But yeah, you definitely reduce the overall cost.
Okay. Good. And do you guys have inspectors on staff as well?
Yes, we do. We have
Absolutely
a full construction inspection staff spread out amongst all of our offices. So we have the ability to literally go anywhere at any time. And and honestly, if they're not available, I'm a big fan of sending my designer out. Gentleman who's designed the road ought to know how to inspect it. I have construction inspection experience both on roadways and bridge, NJDOT bridge projects from my earlier days. So if worse comes to worse, I go out there myself and do the inspections.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else? No,
I'm good, Mayor.
Questions. Good questions. Thank you very much. We will be discussing, I guess, an executive later tonight. So hopefully we'll be able to make a decision and get back to you. But I appreciate you taking the time. I think this is a fairly new council, and they want to make sure that they've done gone through a deliberate, discerning process. This is an important responsibility.
Absolutely.
So we're taking our time to really do a good investigation and review. So thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor.
We
Thank
do
you,
look forward
everyone.
to hearing from you.
You'll be
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Very much.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Okay, and we're on to Chad. No, it doesn't have to be Chad.
Is everybody good? Does anybody just need 30 seconds? Does everybody need a bathroom break? Everybody all right?
Anybody need a break?
All right.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know, do you want me to share the drive?
I've got it up on my screen. It's probably just as easy for me to share the drive and talk. And Mayor, if you could help me on the back end too, to make sure that we're capturing the discussion between the two of us, I think we'll get it.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I'd spend a minute or two level setting on a couple items. So tonight, look, this is going to be an iterative process. It's going to last probably the next 60 days. Our goals tonight are to agree that we have the right tabular categories or modify accordingly. And I know we circulated the the Google Drive a week ago, and we'll show that obviously in the deliberation tonight to the public.
Yeah.
Within each tab, there's missions and visions for all categories. As we were discussing this, one of the things that is an important guiding principle, and as we set this up, is to have a forward-looking vision of what good looks like, right? You can't create a good roadmap to get to good if we're great, if you don't know where you're going.
Oh, can I just stop you for a second? I
Please.
think we wanted to start with the survey results. Yes?
We do. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Does Tom want to
I
present those
wasn't
first?
looking at Tom, so I forgot about it, but I know he had, there he is. Okay.
Is Tom waving like this? We forgot about the survey results?
Yeah, no, I didn't see him.
Go ahead, Tom.
We wanted to go over that. So if you can give us the background on the survey and then how it came out, that'd be great. We can't hear you. You talking?
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes.
Okay. So I've done these types of surveys before. They're extremely useful tools. Was hoping to do one in Bernardsville, but then a great opportunity came around when a high school senior wanted to do a summer internship. So we set Rice Sindra to work on meeting with the department heads, looking at sample surveys, and really just fine tuning it. So thanks to him for all his help. So let me just start by sharing my screen. Let's see. I think this is it. Can you see okay?
No. Nope, wait a minute. Here it comes. We got it.
All right. So move you guys out of the way. Okay. So I'm on the slide that says statistical confidence level, right?
Yeah, we've got you, Tom.
Yep.
Okay, so 322 returns. So for 7,900 residents, that gives us a confidence level of 95% with the margin error of plus or minus 5%. So what that really means is if we repeated this survey again, we could be 95% sure that the answers would fall within plus or minus 5% of where they landed here. If I used adult population, that margin tightens up a little bit. So for simplicity's sake, and I have to say I did this really just in my own imagination, thinking about how to look at the town in terms of service areas. Like, so some areas, you know, have different issues. So I wanted to capture those by region, but I want to stress that we can carve this up any way you want. I can create a sub-region because the data is entered in by street. So we can easily manipulate that. Okay, so overall, we had 217 of the surveys were paper surveys that were mailed out and returned, and 103 came in digitally. Wanted to see if there was a difference between the profile of people who were sending them in either digitally or via paper. And the categories represent how long the resident indicated they've been a resident of Bernardsville Borough. So we thought that was a good test, and they are pretty much identical in terms of who responded using that category. So I'm just going to give you an overview. Mind you, there are a ton of questions, and it's going to take us a while to analyze them all, but this is just a high level to help with tonight's discussion. So overall, quality of life between excellent and good, above 90%. And then what we did is a little bar graph showing 100% for each area, and then breaking it out to see if that tells us anything. So area 4 here represented the lowest fare to poor, but it also registered the lowest excellence score. So these are just sort of some interesting tidbits that we can take away from this kind of information. Sense of community, pretty strong. Overall quality of municipal services. Take the 50 in the excellent, we're at 85%, so that's very encouraging. Area 5 indicated the highest overall positive response in terms of overall municipal service. Areas 3 and 6, the lowest, but at the same time, area 6 showed the highest excellence score.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Was particularly proud of this overall customer service experience when residents engaged our employees. So that's almost 90% in the positive, which was nice. Overall appearance of the borough. I think here we start to get into some opportunities. And I thought it was very interesting to see where those scores lined up the most. And I think area 4 again represents a priority focus area for us when it comes to appearance. And we know that the areas around Olcott, weed issues there are a concern. And it's something we're planning on focusing on and have discussed with downtown Bernardsville and the Public Works Department. Road quality and maintenance, opportunities to make improvements for sure. One of the unfortunate things about this is that this survey was out before our road program was complete for the year. So I'm sure there's a little bit of frustration built into this, but we'll continue to track. Availability and quality of playgrounds. I think again, not getting into the 70s, I think these present opportunities for us. And the one thing that stood up for me is that the lowest negative score in terms of poor to fair, along with the lowest excellent score, came in from area 3. I wrapped this up at the end with some recommendations and opportunities. Overall police service, excellent. And that was pretty uniform throughout the community. Building permit process. This is one of those things where and no one woke up and said, I'm going to go get a building permit today, happily, ever. And that shows us, area 4 seemed happiest, followed by area, I think it was just area 4 that seemed satisfied.
And one's not.
If you recall, last week I said we didn't get beat up on communications too bad. It's one of those things that you're never quite sure what great communication looks like. I think this tells us we're heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the new website will go a long way too, fixing that.
So instead of looking at a map, that didn't show me very much. So I wanted to see by tenure how we were doing, tenure of residency. And, it's interesting, our excellence score shrinks kind of as we go down in newness.
Hey, Tom, as you start to break this data up into these categories, what's the sample size look like? I'm just wondering, are they still, I mean, I don't need exact numbers, but is it fairly well distributed, or is it possible that we only have 4 or 5 residents that responded that were 36 to 45?
No, it was pretty well distributed.
Okay, thanks.
Did you ask Tom in regards to how they receive communications? Because there may be a difference between those that receive communications through the newspaper and paper means versus electronic.
the question was, how would you like to receive your information?
Mhm.
And I'll have to get into that analysis a little bit more, but
Okay.
anecdotally, I'll say, one surprise, I guess not a surprise, and I know some journalists are on the line, but the local newspaper is still heavily relied upon.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's I've learned that to be my truth too, that the local newspapers, especially as we've been transitioning some of our communications, is a very valuable resource for our community.
The other anecdotal thing is, and I just noticed this about myself, is now I prefer to receive direct emails from trusted sources and less so on social media. And so when we asked, how do you prefer to receive your mail? It seemed like across generations, seems to be an interest in email, direct email. And we did receive a good refresh on our email list as a result of the survey.
Great.
You're never going to have a silver bullet for everybody, right? That takes care of everyone wants to receive communication. So I think you have to utilize multiple methods. But I would agree. I think it's probably a miss or an opportunity to start to utilize direct emails, because I think, like you're saying, Tom, from trusted sources is usually very well received.
There was a part of the survey that asked residents to score what they thought future priorities ought to be on a scale of 1 to 7. That was a little bit of a mistake on our part without really giving good instruction as to what we wanted there. So what we simply did is because a lot of people just hit ticks or check marks, so we just counted the boxes. But based on that count, more trails came in very, very strongly. And this is not to say take the focus off anything, but what should get more focus in the future. And community events, activities for adults, like maybe co-ed kickball leagues, softball leagues, flag football, stuff like that. Pickleball. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Ease of walking, opportunity. This where area 3 is, area 3 seems to be sort of interesting in terms of what they're telling us in terms of walkability, playgrounds, those sort of things. So the last part of the survey asked residents to write in thoughts, concerns, and I will tell you, overwhelmingly, the comments were about downtown and redevelopment. So this is just a sample. I would probably need to go 3 pages deep to write it out more, all of them that dealt with downtown.
Yep.
So we'll produce that for you separately. I think my key takeaways are that there, again, a strong emphasis on downtown improvements. We're in a written comment, so that wasn't prompted. That was just voluntary. I think council's recent investment in infrastructure that's going to be appealing to older adults and seniors, such as trails, the path around polo grounds, the pickleball court. I think you get a lot of support as a result of those investments that they'll prove to create a lot of value for us. Continuing the road investments, 50% indicated good to excellent, but this was amongst the lowest combined categories of good and excellent. Again, didn't take into account last year's program. So we're going to be looking to make an improvement in that score. Pedestrian connectivity study. I think we need to get a handle on what's realistic and what's not. I would say, when we look at 271 Brook, we identified a trail, of course, and some parking, but I think it may not be a bad idea to consider a playground there as well, being in Area 3.
Mhm.
Really pleased, humbled and proud of the great scores that the municipal team received and the police department in terms of how they treat the residents and how the residents view them. I think that gives you a source of pride for all of us, and kudos to council for all the support and guidance. We'll do much more analysis for you and continue to improve our communications.
Yeah, it's interesting, Tom, because we just went over the results of the survey that downtown Bernardsville did. And just looking at the comments on your previous slide, they're so similar to what results Olivia also got. The same kind of concerns.
Yep.
Really.
And when we I think the slide dealing with appearance, I think if I matched up the negative scores, I bet if I matched up the negative scores with some of the other comments, I think that appearance relates to, kind of the lack of polish in the downtown area. And I think we just need to prioritize that.
Mhm.
There was, we had a good staff meeting 2 weeks ago. There's issues of ownership and who owns what, who's responsible for what are we allowed to do as a municipality. So we're trying to work all those out. How do we partner with downtown Bernardsville? But getting on those weeds and those little annoyances that we get complaints about, replacing the trash cans, those are going to be job one for me this spring and summer.
Great. Tom, this was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's all, look, I know that there's a lot to unpack here and there's going to be more that we're going to see. This very much helps inform the conversation and the work that we're about to do. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
And Tom, I'm hoping that, you're going to be called on many times tonight. So don't put yourself on mute and go to sleep because we're going to need you.
All right, now Chad.
Yeah, so let's go back. So, look, when we think about tonight, and I'll pull up the spreadsheet. There were 4, smaller goals we had. Was number 1, to agree that we have the right buckets of priorities. And I think we'll get to that relatively quickly. Agree on the visionary statement of what we hope good and great looks like for each one of those. And then agree on the master tasks for consideration. Now, this gets to, and I'm saying this, I guess, less for council and more for the public. It's going to get to a prioritization. And when we think about the things that we have to consider as council, there's really 3 things, in my opinion. One is time, the council's time. As everyone's aware, we're all volunteers. We all have day jobs, and there's only so many hours in a week to go around. There are borough employee time considerations. Every task that goes to the borough employees could possibly have a trade-off from another task that they would be performing if they weren't doing Project X. There's then budget considerations. And it's important for us to level set. I know about 30 days from now, the Finance Committee is going to bring a budget for deliberation, and we're going to have a pretty extensive discussion about the budget, but obviously financing is important. There is some contextual things to make sure that we're all grounded with, one of which is the 2015 road bond. The payment on that bond balloons this year, and as you'll see in a coming month, our repayment on that bond goes up by $310,000 this year as compared to last, based on the way that bond was initially structured. We have the dam and some of the road finalizations from last year, which added to the borough debt plan. All of those things considered means that, we do have a relatively large, at least in my opinion, debt service, and finances this year on the capital side are going to be challenged. So when we bring the budget, you'll have more visibility into it, but expect that capital dollars will have a challenge behind them. On the other hand, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago now, COVID times squishes together. The referendum on the rec plan was passed. We have available for improvements the monies directed through that referendum, plus budget flows that happen on an annual basis that are a little bit more than $400,000 a year. So when we're thinking of priorities, obviously, we're thinking about budget. Do we have monies available? Where did the money come from? But also time at all of our levels. So with that ground setting, shall we begin what is going to be the hard work? Any questions or comments before we start?
No, let's get on with it. I'm tired.
Yeah, I know.
Like, this was supposed to be a special meeting just for this, and now we're an hour and a half in and we're starting it, so.
Can everybody see the Excel document?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So what we're, just to go back to what we're focusing on is these items here, primarily for tonight, and we have 5 tabs. From there, we will build out subtasks. I'm a big scorecard guy. I believe, look, writing things down and holding yourself accountable as an organization is one of the best ways to achieve success. But it also is one of the easiest ways to see if you're succeeding or not, right? Doing nothing and saying nothing typically equals success because you didn't try to do anything. And I think as a group of council people, I know that we all want to accomplish things. And in my opinion, the best way to accomplish something is to write it down. So write it down, we will. And we're going to revisit the scorecard once a quarter going forward. So big master task number 1, let me actually ask a question. I can short circuit this. As a council, did we generally agree that the tabs were the right tabs going forward? And I took some comments from Jay that sent them over today to add into some of the subtasks. Were there any major criticisms or comments about the primary tabs that we are going to create here? So we have one on economic development, one on recreation master plan implementation, one which is public works safety, one which is organization and communication, which Tom just spent a lot of time talking about, and then one tab which is about infrastructure. Are those the correct tabs to begin with?
Hey, Chad, it's Al. Yeah, I think that they are. We had I know Jay had submitted this too, but somehow we do want to incorporate maintaining fiscal discipline.
Yep.
I think that could be even done in economic development, because obviously doing that is a key way to make sure that we're using tax dollars wisely, that attracts, raises home values, could attract new residents, new businesses. So just flagging that, but I would agree that I think that you hit the categories.
Yeah, I rolled that into organization and communication, Al.
Okay, good.
And I think that's probably where it fits under a master bucket. At least that was my opinion, and we can discuss that there if that works.
Yeah, I agree, Jen. I think that's a good spot for it.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on the master tabs before we go forward?
So everybody's good with those 5 categories?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's quickly take them one at a time. Now, look, we're not going to solve all these problems tonight. Likely when we get to our next steps, I'm going to recommend that maybe we break it up into smaller working groups to further elucidate some of these items. But, one of the things that we need to establish, in my opinion, is a vision of what this looks like. So, for example, economic development and revitalization, create and support a vibrant economy and an attractive and thriving business district. That's something that has a qualification. It's something that you can see. And again, we're thinking here in regards to timing, 18 to 24 months should be the longest time frame that we're looking on. So with that being said, in an initial conversation, we created the following master tasks: Palmer Properties, Quimby Village, the Audi property, the business environment, and this incorporates a lot of the things that you were talking about, Diane, and I don't see you actually, I'm missing my.
I'm here.
You're there. Ordinance and regs, et cetera, and then obviously there's the train station master task. Are there any other big projects that we've been talking about that have been floating around that aren't on this list?
Not for economic development, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the singular tab.
Yep. Isn't
Anything
that enough?
well, see, we're not going to be able to get them all done. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that's been on your wish list that you want to throw up in the ethosphere for us to write down for perpetuity? Doesn't mean it's going to be a priority 1 item, but at least it's there and we can consider it as we go forward.
Can you go to organize and communicate?
We're going to take these one at a time, Jay. Oh, you want to see if something's there instead?
Something on that tab is, yeah, thanks. Got it. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Okay.
I was going to ask, where does affordable housing come in?
Okay, it should come here.
But actually, that's not something we have a lot of control over and that we're gonna be involved in overseeing that much, I don't think. It's something we have to do, and it's kind of handled by the attorneys and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, we have to like find the properties and all that
Yeah,
stuff, right?
No, they're already
I don't
there.
know.
For now, all the properties are designated, so.
I suggest we write it down. It's something that you look, as we look inside the onion, if there are tasks in there that we need to prioritize for council, I think it's worth at least looking inside the jar, Mary Jane. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, we can put it there. Just, I don't think it's going to be a lot of work on
Yeah.
our part.
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
Any other major bucket items for economic development that we're missing?
That's captured well on my part.
Okay, Diane,
Okay.
Christine? And I can't see you all because I have multiple screens open. So Christine, are you good with this?
Proceed. Yes, I'm good.
Yeah, and a part of it, I wanted to put in there is we also, there's pieces where we will collaborate with downtown Bernardsville. And actually, I think the pattern book, I think Olivia was helping us with, and also the cleanup and downtown amenities programming. So, they're going to be a partner on, also in, I think, communication. We have them as a partner in branding, because we don't want, we want to have a universal brand. We don't want to have one for
Yes.
downtown and one for the borough and one for some,
Yeah, I think we have downtown Bernardsville in a couple of these
yes,
areas.
under branding.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
where, yeah, okay.
All right, so I'm hearing general alignment, and again, I don't want to go. We don't have the time unless we want to spend 4 hours tonight, and I think this is better done in subcommittees and going to all the various subtasks and outlining each one of these projects to assess feasibility and timing. And I think that's best done out offline if everyone agrees with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then let's go to goal number 2, which is a recreation master plan implementation. Now, this is also for me a low hanging fruit item because, a lot of our revenue solutions are there. So creating parks and programs that connect the community, enhance the quality of life for all residents. I think Tom came up with that tagline, or it was Mary Jane.
Well, it's actually in our
Rec plan.
in the rec plan. The committee
Yes.
came up with that.
That's correct. Which that speaks to me. I don't know how everyone else feels. But when I think of what I've been hoping to do with our recreation plan and what we've been looking to do, it really speaks to me. Does everyone agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's really good.
Yeah, that
So-
was steering committee.
So look, now everyone knows and everyone's read the rec plan. There are 100 tasks in the rec plan.
Yeah.
We are not going to tackle 100 tasks in the rec plan over the next 12 months. And again, this is meant to be an iterative document that we alter over time. So what we did was we took the phase 1 items from the rec plan. Okay. And maybe this is where we will go into some subtask discussion. Some planning for the second phase of the rec plan that they had. And then I just added in area 3 playground, which was not part of the rec plan, but based on Tom's survey, it's maybe something we should consider. So when we're looking at, let me back up. When we think of master tasks for us for this calendar year, do we generally agree that implementing the right pieces of phase 1 and then getting ready for phase 2 are the 2 right tasks for recreation for the year? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right.
Have to look at trails though a little bit differently, as not separate trail here, there, and everywhere. We have to look at trails more as an opportunity that we have to make trails in Bernardsville, walking trails, hiking trails, bike trails, a destination, a reason for people to come to Bernardsville. We could connect to the Morris County system, to the Somerset County system, and this could be the place everywhere everybody from around comes into Bernardsville for trails.
But
Yep.
that's kind of a long range plan. That's not a this year plan.
But it's a plan, and if you're going to implement different trails, you should have the plan first, and then you know what trails to implement in what order.
Yeah, and Diane, I put them in both because look, I think right now we're assessing feasibility, right? And I don't know which order is right. So I think putting that in planning first phase and planning second phase, let's sort of see where that fits. Because I think you're right. My personal opinion, again, we're just sort of speaking of our own opinions. The community survey, once again, is reinforcing the need for trails in the borough, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, and
that
actually-
may I offer?
Yeah, please, Tom.
Downtown Bernardsville, that was mentioned also.
I don't know if you might have under infrastructure, but I do think that a pedestrian master plan that takes the trails into account as an element of that system is maybe, is that the same thing, Diane, that perhaps
It
you
might
were
be in public
insinuating?
work safety, Chad, because the sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a sidewalk study, but at one point we had done, and I can't remember what happened to it. We did do a borough-wide connectivity plan.
So
I don't
I'm
know
going to
what
stop,
happened to
just so you guys are aware, I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second because I'm working on the wrong sheet of music. So hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I don't think you're not on the drive.
No, I'm not, because I realized that the Google Drive was the same place as.
Yeah, but we did have this, we had, a community thing where people came and they wrote on the map, and we had this consultant who did a whole,
Yeah.
how could we connect the borough? And I don't know where that data is, but we did do it at one point. Of
You
how
recall the year that happened?
it's gotta be,
Was it 2019? Did we?
6, 8, no,
I
it's like-
remember, do you remember?
this was like 6 or 8 years ago.
I'm basically talking about a plan to have well, because different trails are going to be for different purposes. Some are going to be for hiking. Some are going to be for like heavy duty hiking that you wouldn't bring little kids on. Some are going to be for bikes. Some are going to be for just walking paths.
Yep.
And they need to be identified what they're going to be for. And I think that this could be something that could be setting us apart from other towns in the area. And that's my rationale behind the whole.
Yeah, Diane, and actually, I want to just pull on that thread for a sec, because the only thing that I was thinking to add to that vision statement is about making Bernardsville a destination for these things too. And then I kind of just let it go. But since Diane's bringing it up specifically for trails, I think it's the same thing for the polo grounds and, being able to host big events there and things like that.
Yeah, and I'll go back and I'll wordsmith and, I think Charlie's on the phone. Charlie, don't copy edit me while I'm doing this, man.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, we can add something about
I
destinations.
don't know.
I agree.
I think the destination thing is bigger than recreation. The destination would be for, restaurants, culture, historic, all those things. So I think that's kind of almost an overarching goal.
Yeah.
Everybody's
All
going to
these
come to
things
Bernardsville for everything.
should make us a destination town. It's a place you want to go, that you can spend the day, you can have dinner, you can hike, you can, do a little bit of everything.
So maybe you should put that under economic development.
Yeah, it may go in a couple spots.
Yeah.
'Cause I think you're right. I think everyone is right that there's multiple places where this is an overarching Beville vision that we need to develop, and it also falls into a couple areas.
But if you try to specialize in everything, you may risk not being able to specialize in anything.
Is anything? That's exactly right.
That's
I
why
think
you
we
have to pick a few things.
Yeah.
You have to look at our natural kind of competitive advantages and lean into those. I mean, I definitely think the downtown obviously is one of them, and we're upgrading a rec. But I think, your point, Diane, is we're a gateway, right, to a number of other trail systems. We already have a lot of great trails, and there should be ways to both upgrade and connect them over the long run. And that could then lead to other businesses and all that might come in to support those activities.
Plus, the borough owns a lot of land that has a lot of trees and a lot of old carriage trails that can be converted into hiking trails.
Yeah.
And there's also history behind it, so it brings a history element to it.
Where are these trails?
There's trails, there's old carriage trails in
Where?
a lot of these areas.
Where are they?
I have them in my backyard.
Yeah, but
But
that's
there's-
private property, isn't it?
There's not, there's no carriage trails on 271 up there. There's no kind of trails
There's,
that are
there's
already up there.
trails, there's a old bridle trail in the back, which is what we're talking about.
Oh, okay, so the bridle trail, it's a horse trail.
Yeah, that's why we have it on the list there.
Well, so I think there's a couple things here that achieve what you're suggesting, Diane, at least in our initial investigation here, right? So, and I think Tom said it, because you're correct. It's trails, but it's also connectivity of a lot of different things, right?
Yes.
So I think if we think about connectivity for the borough holistically, it may allow us to back end into some of those other items, right? Do you agree?
Yeah.
So if I was creating a master task, so, you know, a connectivity plan for the borough, I think that would be the master task that would allow us to think about those secondary downstream items. Because then
Right.
you've got trails, again, you've got sidewalks.
The sidewalks is already there.
They're already someplace else, right? And then we
There's another
have,
over here.
That's
sidewalk
you know,
study.
bike trails, right? There's a whole bunch of things that would then back into this piece.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Chad, actually, when we look at public works and safety and infrastructure, and maybe we can wait till we get there, but maybe
Yep.
they come together instead of being separate, because to Tom's
can.
point, it could go under infrastructure, but it could also go under the public works and safety, and
Yep.
everything in infrastructure could really go under safety also, right? Like cell service and JCP&L, right? It just being
right.
available,
So-
not being down. So
I'm going to move this up next so we discuss these in sequence, and then we can talk about if we condense them. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on the recreation tab in regards? Because I think we should probably try. Is 9:30 okay for everybody?
Don't forget, we have an executive session. Yes.
Okay. And like I said, we're not going to get through all this tonight. The idea here is to get at least the roadmap. What did we call it? The connectivity plan for our council plan tonight. All right, let's go to public works and safety. So here again, there's threads of connectivity, a safe and connective community for all aspects of transportation. So here, the three primary categories: maintain our roads, sidewalks, which is something that we've been talking about more and more recently at council, Christine. And I believe that this was a big part of what you had in yours. And obviously we had the folks from Anderson Hill here last week. And then I added the connectivity plan for the borough. If we think of that category, are those all of the big master tasks that we need to have written down?
Yeah, I think.
I just think the first one is a given. I mean, you can't not do the first one.
Yeah, but we could do more.
We could do more, or we could do less, or we could trade off 8 for, I mean, if we really wanted to go, there's all kinds of decisions that you could make based on where your priorities lie, right?
I
Yeah, I mean,
suppose. I
and-
just feel like, if we don't write down maintain our roads, that doesn't mean we're not going to do it, because I feel like we have to do it no matter what.
I don't disagree with you, but I think it's, at least we have to have it down, right? Because I think the big thing that we've been doing, Christine, and this has been in place, I mean, you've been in council longer than I have, the road maintenance plan,
Right.
right? And part of this is continually monitor our road conditions and maintain, there's this 80% level. Tom, can you talk a little bit about that 80% borough threshold, sort of, I don't want to call it a rule.
So it's a road quality. It's like, so assume a freshly paved road that was just done yesterday is 100%. Well, those roads after every storm are going to deteriorate a little bit at a time. If we can maintain them at 80% of quality through, that once we re-engineer some, keep them on a regular mill and overlay plan, and do high quality improvements, our goal should be to keep that at 80%, because that's going to save us money in the long run.
yeah, and I think that's what, when I think about some of these things, some of them need measurements and they can go with the subtasks. They don't have to
Yep.
go overall. But what is what we want to measure, right? What is our definition of good or great or whatever it is. And again, this is something that should continually live on and be looked after, year over year for councils so that they can adjust this or maintain it and keep it there. But we do have, we just put, a lot of money into our roads to keep them, to get them where they are. They're not all great yet. And we still have a lot that are under that 80 quality, but I think it's about, again, the focus and where we're putting our priorities. And this could fall by the wayside, right? I mean, Christine, you say it's a given, but it wasn't a given a couple years ago. So we want to make sure it stays that way.
That's true.
Yep.
Okay.
Look at, and Gina, as you guys see, I just wrote down that key point because I think as we're going through this and refining it, we'll make sure we incorporate it. Any other key points that anyone has that wants to make before we continue?
I just like to hear a little bit more about integrated pest management on borough properties. I have not heard this as an issue as of yet.
Okay, describe that, because this is a new one for me. So describe.
Oh, it's right there. It's already on there.
Row
17.
No.
It's line 17. It's on there.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, that must have been picked up in somebody's comment somewhere. Again, we tried to not delete anything as the various council people were circulating items.
No, I added that one. And to me, that just refers to how we are maintaining borough properties, whether it be a park or the pond or a ball field or any open space that we have. And integrated pest management is being implemented on some of those properties. By law. You have to use IPM on playgrounds and school property, but it's not on all properties.
Yeah, but I thought, didn't the council come up with we went through this for quite a while and we came up with, here's how we want to do it. It was the half and half and.
Right, so that's why I say transition to all, because I
is that
felt
what
like
everyone wants to do?
Yeah, well, see, I don't think, Mary Jane,
I don't know.
think
I thought that's what we were talking about.
I don't think anything right now is redlined. I think what we want to do is get all of our ideas on paper, assess them, and then the last thing that we'll do once we have the subtask, an idea of financing, an idea of the steps that are required for various things, that then the last thing is assess what we want to do and what we can't do, or where the priorities lie. I think that's the last step in this, Mary Jane, if that's okay.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Okay.
The only other thing, Chad, I'll add to your last question before we went to that was the key point is just to maybe make sure that we figure out a way so that this doesn't live and die with this council.
Well, I can tell you that, look, this is something that I plan on maintaining and doing our scorecard evaluation the first council meeting of every quarter once we get it up and running. And maybe that'll create a tradition that'll live beyond if it works.
Okay. Yeah, It would be good to see how we could maybe, what we can put in place to kind of keep this going.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm hoping that we get to a good place and that I'm not just wasting everyone's time here. And I'm hoping that it's something that future councils are going to want to continue. Because for me, look, this is the way that I manage my life and my business. It's everything about, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how we do it. And this is how we're going to execute. And did we execute or not? And then you continually reassess along the way. So I'm hoping it works. It should work. It just takes a little bit of effort to get there. Now, the one that I think was the least defined in our list, and I think Gina might be right. It's because it folds into here, was the infrastructure. And there's been a lot of discussion lately. I mean, Al, I know you sent out something about power outages just on Friday with the incoming storm, right? I think there's a lot of ideation that we need to have as a council about some of these items. And so Al, do you want to talk about this tab a little bit and where you think we start and go from here?
Yeah, well, first of all, I really like, Gene, I really like your idea of trying to integrate it with Public Works, because all of these issues end up coming through Public Works. Anyway, the only thing we'll have to look at is how we rationalize the goal or the sort of the subvision of each,
Yep.
public works versus the other. I think, if you can just hop to the other, oh, there it is right there.
I copied them all down. So I work while we talk. Go ahead.
Great. So, I think others, please jump in, but perennially power comes up, and it's not just a winter thing. I mean, we've had, spring storms, fall storms, and all that take power out for a few days here as we keep trying to bring it up to the JCPL and other boards to raise it as an issue. And, something that I know like I heard last year, we have 15 generator applications a month, right? So for community 25 miles outside New York City, you think you'd be able to have a little bit more of a sustainable power grid. That being said, I know there's just a lot of issues that we continue here, cell service, cable in certain parts of town, obviously with the deal with the dam. So I think it's smart to have this and think about them, because even from a cost or integrated activity, along with the other priorities we have here too.
So Tom C., did these items, infrastructure items, get addressed in your survey by area?
No, because the focus was really on the services we offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if, just to put a task, do we need to assess? Do we understand what the problem is and where we have problems? I mean, look, I know I'm in, I think, area 4. I lose power 3 times a year. Sometimes it's prolonged. Do we need to assess that in the community, in your opinion?
I lose power at least once a month.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez.
So
there's always a tree down on Mount Harmony Road.
Yeah.
Last year there was, and I can go back and pull it so my council member, my colleagues can see it. I don't think we have a choice of what power, and I'm not advocating for that, but
no.
You have JCPL, you have PSE&G towns in the state, and PSE&G towns got power back significantly faster than JCP&L towns. And my concern is that Bernardsville, being a smaller community, where do we rank when it comes to trying to reestablish the power grid? You just heard from Diane that, herself, and there's a lot of other residents in town, but there could be an opportunity there. I know some local communities, I think Bernards Township is one of them, have even established utility committees where they're able to sort of handle power requests that come in, work with the Board of Public Utilities, talk about that. So, maybe we can bring it to Public Works, have a discussion as to what are the levers that are actually at our disposal. But I do think it's probably also a good idea to make sure that not only do residents, I know I've heard it before, and some of my other colleagues see this as a top priority, but also are there mechanisms that other towns are putting in that are addressing it more effectively than we are here in Bernardsville?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chad, may I offer a thought?
Yeah.
On this? I think there's a number of things that impact the quality of life in the borough that, if not to expand your tabs, but really fall under the category of intergovernmental relations.
Okay, you go explain, because you just ran off the rails of where.
I put it under organization.
Yeah, so meaning, what are we waiting on the county to do? What are we waiting on the state to do? What are we waiting on DOT to do? What are we waiting on the utilities to do? These are things that maybe require us to develop some juice, so to speak, because they don't really fall within anything.
So
give me
for
some example,
go back over that list for me, Tom. So you talked about the county, right?
Right, like a lot of the sidewalk improvements, fall on county right of ways. The utility issues rest with the utility company, and we have government relations guys there. And
yeah.
But I remember, to get the permit for the path around the polo grounds, I mean, that required letters to the senator.
That was DEP.
The mayor reaching out to the governor, even my wife, who works for the state, walking over to a building to ask if anyone's there. So, I mean, that was like a concentrated effort because we didn't want to use lose a building season. So these things, like if someone's not focusing and hounding someone constantly, so I'm thinking that's the structure we got to think of. How do we prioritize things outside of our control and then bring our focus to the most important ones one at a time?
Yeah, I think you're making a great point. And as I'm writing these down, obviously we're going to want to get to something that's measurable. But there's a lot of different levers that we probably don't even think to pull, right?
It's like ensuring our fair share.
Yeah.
Or fair attention from the state, the county, and utilities.
Yeah, I mean, another one that we've talked about is open space, right? Because they have the entire open space fund, and grants, and I think grants would also fall in this category too, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
The state, put the state in there too, because like even if we talk about just a little crosswalk that we were trying to get across 202 over by Bistro, which is now coming, but it took a lot.
DOT.
Yeah.
State agencies, all the state agencies.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and
Don't
just in
forget
general,
New
right,
Jersey
where
Transit.
yeah. But I mean, I was thinking in general where, the residents always say, well, why the heck is the borough not talking to the county or the state about this road, that road, right? Or the utility people where we just pave a road and then somebody comes up and pulls it right back up again.
Why we have an ugly green hot box on our most prominent corner in the center of our borough.
Yeah,
I've tried that one.
I know. So actually, before we get over to organization and communication, any other master tasks that we need to have here on this bullet here? So we've got roads, sidewalks, connectivity plans, infrastructure, and within infrastructure we have survey, and then the levers that may be at our disposal. Any other master items that we need to dig further into?
No, I think it was very helpful thinking about these and how they're better characterized. So
yeah,
it was a good discussion.
Right. All right, let's move on to organization and communications. Tom, with the way the survey came back, maybe we just delete this tab. What do you think?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
We need to get done.
Tom's always said, and I really value this aspiration of his. So members of the community, or, I think the paper's on, Tom is striving to have what he calls a best in class borough. And there's a lot of things that would make us best in class in his vision. One is the way we communicate. One is the way that we possess fiscal discipline. And one is that it's accountable to the highest and definable standards. And Tom, I commend the work that you've done in the last, it has been 18 months, 12 months?
No, it's a year.
1
next
year.
week.
A year next week. Wow. Well, congrats. Are we going to have a cake or something?
Someday I look forward to having a cake with all of us.
There we go. So, some of the items and master tasks that were discussed, number one, having a recognizable town, both within and outside the community. And that involves things such as town branding, and developing a communication plan, being accountable to our public. And this, Tom's thought about an entire process improvement training for the variety of folks, not only here, but also within the borough. Maintaining fiscal responsibility, and Al and Jay, this was the piece that you sent. When we get to the budget and debt plan, I think a lot of these things are in place, and we can always continue to do better to actively manage our debt plan. And I think we need to, what I'd recommend, and now mind you, we're not doing subtasks tonight. We need to further communicate and define what our debt plan and what I would consider our debt reduction plan to be, as we do this next budget cycle. Review our borough committees for efficiency. And Diane, this was your recommendation?
Yep. We have a lot of committees. Everybody doesn't know what they do.
And I think this is something simple that we can solve.
Yep.
All right. Council training. I know this is also by law, but also I think that we can do our jobs better. And then this was the conversation that we just had about intergovernmental organization assessment and communication. Any large tasks that we can dream up that we want to include on our list as we go down this rabbit hole path?
Yeah, I think that maybe with it being under organization it's building those relationships.
You're talking about here, Mary Jane?
Yeah, the intergovernmental organization assessment, it's building the relationships with those organizations and agencies. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking to do.
Oh, so that's the master.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
And then we can take away the infrastructure tab. Right?
And then I'm going to delete this, right?
Yeah, take that one out.
I always hate deleting. I never delete anything, but I'm going to do it.
Feels good.
No, I this is a general rule. I never delete anything. I save 150 versions, but I can't do it on a Google file. So there we go.
It's like feng shui.
Okay.
So it's 9 o'clock. Is
Good.
everyone reasonably happy? Now look, we're going to change this. This will change quarterly. For right now, this is the sheet of music that we're going to start from. We're going to look at these things. We're going to start assessing them from feasibility, from cost. We're going to start building out what some of the things that are going to need to happen for us to get there. Is everyone happy that we've reached that point?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm okay. The only thing that I might just ask, Chad, is with all the resources that will go into even just putting some responsibilities and financing against it to put the priority there, do we want to whittle down the list before that? It seems, yeah, there's a lot on here, and I think
look, this is enough for a decade for a council.
Yeah,
You know
I'm just talking about the evaluation.
Right, Tom, go ahead.
You know what might be helpful is a dynamic scoring. So if we list all these things and I go back to you and I give you a dynamic way of scoring these things, we can come up with grades and standards of deviation to find like tightness around particular issues that resonate with you guys.
And then after we grade, Tom, we can maybe go downstream with half of them.
Well, and the thing to remember is the recreation things, financing is really not an issue.
Yeah.
So we don't.
So those are ones we should leave on. I think we should look at things that don't cost a tremendous amount of money.
It's really looking at some of the infrastructure things that we may not have the funding for.
So what does everybody think about Tom's recommendation? So obviously keeping in mind, time allocation, budget, right? If Tom sends out a survey, and Tom, I know that you have a mechanical process to do this, are we willing to put a score to these right now based on our current assessment to minimize the amount of downstream work that we do to get something more fleshed out? Are we willing to do that as a council?
I think we need two different scores. A score that what Tom is saying, but also a score of how much money are these things going to cost. We have to have, are these things that are going to cost a tremendous amount? Or these things that are free for us to do that we could get done and don't cost the town anything? I think that's kind of an important factor when we're looking about what the plan to go forward.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to prioritize if you don't know how much it costs and how much we have to spend.
So what if we gave everything a grade for priority and grade for budget? And then look, I hate these, I love these kind of, I'm going to draw in Google here. I can't in Google Documents.
I think,
we have priority and we have budget. And we'll put them on, you guys see what I'm doing here with my, so we have priority and budget, and we can sort of arrange these tasks based on those two variables for a decision matrix.
But we don't know what a sidewalk study is going to cost, or what the sidewalk on Mount Airy or the sidewalk is going to cost. We have no idea at this point.
I think Tom can give us a score as to whether the financing or the budget would be, say, like negligible, low, medium, or high, something like that. And maybe put something around what the bracketing would be. I think to do this, we just need an idea as to, is it something that's already paid for? Is it something that's low cost that could be sort of done within our annual budget? Or is it something that, may make it cost prohibitive, even if it is a nice to have?
I was actually thinking that financing is important, but I think you were getting just a little too far ahead. I think really right now, I want to get a feel for, in the simplest way, to say, if I come in one day and I have nothing to do, what do I know you expect me to be working on next?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's really more of a sensitivity study in terms of things that are really important to the voice of the community, which is the council. Like, where do you all perceive to be the most valuable things to focus on that you want to get a report on, let's say monthly, right? Like, so let's really measure those things that you react to and respond to, and then we can. You don't have to so much know about financing of roads, other than to be reminded that these are the 3 we're working on. These are the grants we're working on. This is what was budgeted, and here's, we know that now it's most important, for example, to look for opportunities for something regarding roads. Like, I think it's important to get a sense of like what's most important to you.
So Tom, when we look at this this tab right here under redevelopment, so are you looking for a priority on what's more important, the Palmer properties, Quimby Village, or the Audi property? Or are you looking for what's more important of the subtasks?
So let's say hypothetically,
or let me ask one last question. Are you looking for a difference between the Palmer properties and looking into infrastructure?
Yeah.
Yeah, like some things are going to be obvious, but between these 3 tabs, there's a lot of things that aren't so obvious.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
But what we'll do is we'll put this all in a report to say these are council priorities for 2022 in order of priority. But some things just aren't going to be ripe for working on. But at least I can update you. So, for example, we'll talk about the train station. We can make sure you're aware of every single call that comes in on the train station. And, we get a lot of them, but they don't go anywhere. But, I don't always drop what I'm doing to deal with every single call, because I think, for example, other things are more important to this council that you're expecting to hear back from me when we meet again. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I think Tom, I agree with you that a spot poll right now, and not right now meaning 9:08 on Monday night. I think a spot poll that happens over the course of the next week. How long do you think that would take, Tom?
Oh, just a couple days.
Okay.
It's a matter of how quickly you guys get back to me. I can have it out the door by the end of the week.
Yeah, and I think if we fill that out, that will guide us. Because look, and I can't remember who made this point. It might have been Diane. We don't want to spend tens of hours digging into all the steps that are going to go into making the Polo Grounds walking path a reality.
No.
If no one cares. Now, I grabbed that because that's what it ran in front of me. I'm not suggesting that no one cares, right? But I think we do need to have some priority to our investigation.
So how do we prioritize them? How do you want us to do this?
So, Tom, you're going to send out a survey, right?
Yep.
And are we doing this devoid of budget, or are we just doing this with that in mind, in your opinion?
No, because you don't, to know what a priority for you is, budget comes later. Like, something might only be partially funded because we don't have enough money to fund everything you want to do. Yeah. But at least if we know it's a priority, then we know that partial funding is a priority as well, okay, if we have that pool.
So why don't we do it devoid of budget for now?
All right. Okay, let's do that. Tom, you'll get that to us, and we could probably get it done for the next
So
meeting.
remember, this is a strategic plan. Yeah. What strategic plans do is they prepare you for opportunities, which is important. It's important to know what's important, what's going to create value for you, what's next.
Yeah, I was thinking create value too, Tom. That was what was in my head.
Yep.
What's going to bring the biggest value to our residents? But
I'll
I
give
did
you-
want to ask, sorry,
I
go ahead.
just want to give you just another little hint or example of why this is important. Back when Governor Whitman was elected and she announced the Rails to Trails program,
Mhm.
if you had a master plan that already identified things, you were first in line for those grants. Those plans took months to create, but some communities had them and they got them first, and then they was never replenished again. So that's why knowing that's important is important, you know, so you can at least put that plan in place and be ready for that opportunity.
Okay, good. So I have a question
Yeah,
though
go,
on the
Gina.
priorities. So the things that are listed here, they're obviously all listed here because somebody thought of them and thought they were important. So like in my mind, if I'm gonna say what am I putting the value on here, the priority on here based on the value it brings to the community, regardless of anything else? So like, for example, I'm thinking Polo Grounds walking path. It's in the works. Doug's on it. Doug is gonna make it happen. He's gonna execute on it. It's there. So
Yep.
to me, I wouldn't make it a priority because I'm trusting Doug to
Yep.
follow through and finish it. But I don't want to deprioritize it and then them think, oh, well, it's not a priority anymore. So we'll work on that last. So are we prioritizing everything in here? Like just based on the value it brings to the community?
Yeah, I think once I get your feedback, then we're going to overlay it with reality, and that'll be a priority by default because it's almost done.
Yeah.
And it sets us up to make the connection into the Autobahn. So it'll have to be a priority. Like, so yeah, some of these things are going to be obvious,
Yeah.
but we should keep them on that list and then check them off as we go.
Check them off as they're done.
Yeah, but I like that, Gina. I like saying, thinking of it as what brings value to the
Yep.
community.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the only unique one that's in that circumstance, Gina. That's, you know, it's 80% down the walking path road,
too.
right?
Yeah.
But it's still important to recognize though that yes, it's in Doug's hands and it's a priority that he get it done. And it's also important that we don't create other distractions while some of these priorities are happening. That's why it should stay on the list. So we never
That's
lose
exactly
sight
right.
that it's there.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Tom. That's exactly right.
Okay,
So
can we wrap this up?
We would be prioritizing then without respect to the progress that's being made.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So then if okay.
Yep.
You got that? All right.
Yep.
We good? Because we still have to have a public session yet. So.
Oh, I didn't realize we were still having public session. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. I know that this is not easy, so thanks for spending the time.
Great job,
Thanks for
Chad.
the work
Thanks
that you
for,
guys did before to get here so that this
Yeah.
went fast.
thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Yes.
That's what we're here for, right? Okay, let's, you want to stop sharing and?
Yes.
If
Thank you,
anyone-
Tom. I know you did a lot of work too.
Yeah, no, Tom was integral in this.
Oh, absolutely. We now have a public session, so if anyone from the public would like to be heard, either use your little hand signal or wave your hand. Keep your comments to 3 minutes, give your name and address, and where's Anthony? There he is. Anthony will hold up the timer, and I see John Donahue already has his hand up.
Councilman.
So,
Hello. I'll try to be brief because I know you guys have a late night ahead of you, not me anymore. So, you know. I sent you guys an email earlier. I just wanted to kind of follow it up with the call because we're talking about priorities, talking about trails. Two of the properties I think that we already own, I think can be made much better, cheaply, quickly, and then put to immediate beneficial use. Now, I'll start with 271. We did the cyclocross there in the spring and in the fall. And we'll do that again in the fall. But what that property could be used for so much else too, is to tear down that chicken coop, and underneath the stands of trees behind the chicken coop and right by the driveway you come in, it's full of those barberry and wineberry, these are prickly things. If we can have them brush mowed, like if a contractor could do that, it's like an industrial sized lawnmower that just choose them up. It'll open that place up a lot for us to use, when we do our thing in the fall, but also for whoever else might want to use that property. Also frees up some parking spots, which is always a recurring theme here. And real quickly, instead of doing a spring cyclocross, we're hoping to do on Peter's track, mountain bike racing, run through rec, kind of what we did with cyclocross. And our deer management hunting club did a great job. They cut like a 6-foot swath through those prickly bushes towards the back of the property. And it's much more open back there. And I was hoping if they could maintain that, we could get someone else to maintain it and also bring the brush mower back in and make a connecting trail. So you can actually have a loop back there. So it'd be great. I think it'd be cheap to do. You can find out, confirm that. It'd be quick to do, and we'd be using it hopefully in the spring, but in mid-May to mid-June, we'll have to do mountain biking. But the parking, again, is always an issue here, at least for now. The short-term solution would be to park on the lawn, but there's a couple of tree stumps that would need grinding so we can get in there without making it too much of a Jenga puzzle, in addition to taking down like the storage shed and that, falling apart swing. And that's my spiel, my pitch to you guys. If you can get this accomplished, we're happy to, Alan and I did the cyclocross, happy to run with the trail work and whatnot and keep you guys we'll propose it more formally later on, but let us, move on with that, knowing this might happen so we can do something really cool for the town.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And yeah, thanks for staying with us.
Sure, you guys killed me. You put this at the end, not the beginning.
I know, sorry.
No worries.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Carrie.
Hi, yeah, I'm not actually sure what I wanted to say now that I've finally found my button, but I'm excited about all the trail work that is being proposed and discussed, and to see that there are a lot of allies for creating trails and quickly creating and improving trails. Just I now know what I was going to say. Just to add on to what John just said, yes, for the deer hunting, the trail up at Peter's Tract was originally cleared, but several people, including Chris D'Amato, myself, Ed English, and Jeff Hammond were up there. We dug out by hand quite a lot of the roots of the barberry that were along that trail. And so just to say, we can maintain that on our own. And John's right, when you get up to the top, there's a very large open area that I would think, would be good for mountain biking, but also I thought it would be ideal for a playground of just natural, like logs for kids to climb on, and parents could sit on logs. We wouldn't have to put in any money. We could use what we already had up there and you'd walk up the trail, you could have your circular trail, do the mountain biking, which John is proposing, and also have a playground up there with really no capital costs. And I think you can find that there are willing volunteers that know the difference between barberry and native species that could help us to get this done. And in many of our other areas, we could do the same thing very easily. That's my spiel for tonight.
No, that's a good spiel. Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks.
And Olivia, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Thank you guys for including us in your thoughts here. It seems that with our own session that we had on Saturday, that our visions are sort of aligned with the whole idea of promoting Bernardsville as a destination, because we really do have it all here, and including a place to stay. So, we most certainly are able to do that. And I love the fact that we are aligned in our goals. So our committees are working on work plans right now. So while you guys are working on your priorities, we're sort of working on ours too. So again, aligned in that manner. So I'm just really excited about the fact that we can continue this path in a positive direction, and just looking forward to working more with you guys. So
Olivia, would you be willing to share those with us when those work plans and plans for the year are done? Thank you. Because it is important that we're aligned.
Yes. It is a goal for us to share some of them publicly as well. I mean, obviously, all the little tiny details will keep away from overwhelming people, but that, and also our survey results, which I believe Mary Jane and Diane have access to. You guys are welcome to share if those are helpful, especially all the 400 plus comments that we have from all that. Yeah, we have a lot of interesting and good comments, but all helpful towards the common goal. So please feel free to share those, and hopefully they'll be helpful for you guys.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Anyone else from the public want to speak? I'm not seeing any. Anthony, do you see any?
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay, then I will close the public session. Do I have a motion for executive? And we
Also
will-
move.
I believe we're not coming back out.
Well, we may if we do designate, correct?
Jack, can we do that?
Sure, you can, as long as you announce now that you may come back and.
Okay, so there's, yeah, all right, we may come back out. So I don't know if anybody wants to hang around, but do I have a motion for executive?
I'll make the motion,
Yep.
go into executive.
I'll second and require that John Donahue hangs around for at least an hour to wait for us to come back out.
I'll catch the video in the morning.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we will go to executive. Can we take a 2-minute break?